understand some of the big muscle movements that get worked into the technique. So the first one is just break fall, combat stand-up, right? So the idea is if you're getting taken down, the last thing you want to do is stop that fall. So a lot of people will post out like this, like that. As they're going down, they'll end up hurting their arms. So we want to drill that habit out of us, cross our arms, touching your shoulders. We're going to sit 90 degrees like we're sitting in a chair. A lot of people cheat and they sit really, really low like this. And that kind of defeats the purpose because you don't get that sensation of falling. So what I want to do is sit 90 degrees. I'm going to fall back, and when my butt hits the mat, I'm going to slap really hard. I want to keep the back of my head off the mat. So the idea is I'm going down, I'm falling, my butt hits, I slap, I kept the back of my head off the mat. Now, if I want to get up, one foot on the mat, opposite hand, okay? I want to build up to my shoulder, I want to build up to my hand. I can kick, I can create space, keep space for my opponent here if I have to. My hips come off the mat, okay? This foot comes back in line with this hand, and I come up, and I have never turned my back to my opponent. So one more time, break fall to combat stand up. Cross my arms, sit in the chair, fall back, stop my momentum with a slap, foot, opposite hand, build up to the elbow, build up to the hand, hips off the mat, this foot back in line with the hand, and I back up, and I haven't turned my back to my opponent. All right, guys, so the next bit is we're gonna break down shrimping because I'm a little bit particular about shrimping the right way. I want to make sure we understand how to get to shrimping the right way. This is not about doing this fast or quick or being explosive. This is about doing it properly, okay? So the first thing I want people to understand is I'm going to always be saying drive with your top leg, and I want your bottom leg regarding. And the first thing I want people to understand is I want to be in this side plank position here, like this, okay? Where everything's in line. All my weight is on my top leg so I can regard and I can get this bottom knee in here. So this is a warm-up drill I do. Just here, there's no weight here, so I can reclaim space with this. And it's the same thing on the other side. Here, all my weight's on this top leg, so I can regard with this bottom leg. All right? The next thing, we're gonna hear people say bridge and buck. Now, if I'm on my back, feet and shoulders, and I wanna get up, right, I'm gonna bridge up here, okay? And I'm gonna buck, and I'm gonna be trying to drive people off my hips. Now, eventually, we're going to be turning while we do it, so I'm going to push more with this leg than this leg. I'm going to turn over the shoulder. So now you see the only thing touching the mat is this leg and this shoulder, okay? And this is the start of a proper shrimp. And the only thing touching the mat are the foot and the shoulder, okay? Now, we're going to take that and we're going to combine those two movements where I have somebody in side control and they're controlling my hips. I want to be able to come up and reclaim the space with my hips by getting up on my foot and my shoulder, putting this down by my waist. I'm dragging my leg along this elbow, and I'm reclaiming the space. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Again, my weight's on this foot, this shoulder, this elbow is in. I'm reclaiming the space by my hips. So this, when we do shrimping, a lot of people want to go as fast as possible, and they're driving off this bottom leg. Well, that does you nothing, okay? It's about reclaiming this space. I'm clearing the space and reclaiming it. All right, so some of these escapes we're going to be talking about building up height, and it took me forever to figure this out, and it's shameful how long it took me. When I was learning this, I had a lot of really big guys that would say, hey, just sit up. So if I'm down here and they say, just sit up, I'd be trying to use my abs and, kind of trying to sit up. And it took me forever to figure out that as I'm creating my frame with this top arm, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the window with this bottom arm, and I'm going to build up height here. Now I can sit up and start creating space. So instead of just framing and using my abs to sit up, I have to use this top arm, open the window, build up to my elbow, and then I can also then build up to my hand. Now I have a much greater potential to create height with my hips, as opposed to just trying to sit up here or doing it all in one motion like this. Maybe I'll get it, maybe I won't. Here, here, and then here, okay? The next motion that gets coupled with this is butt scooting. So just like we talked about with shrimping, I have weight on one foot and one hand. If I need to create movement with these hips, okay, I can butt scoot forward. Again, the only thing touching the mat is this foot and this hand, okay? I can butt scoot backwards. Now if I want to go the other way, it goes to this foot and this hand, and I can butt scoot backwards. I can also butt scoop forwards like that. So when I say butt scoot, it's foot, hand, nothing else on the mat. I'm moving my hips that way. Foot, opposite hand, nothing else on the mat. I'm moving my hips backwards or forwards. Thanks. All right, guys, so the next two concepts we're going to talk about are inside bicep control and pummeling. Now, Banga will call this T-Rex arms like this. And usually what I'm trying to do when I'm fighting my opponent is I want to establish inside control inside his torso, right? And so if we have a position here where I can create inside control on his arm, I can push with my forearm, but I can pull with this grip. So I want to take these two fingers, I want to find this seam where Mike's shoulders and triceps connect, and I'm gripping here, okay? Now what I don't want is my straight arms, because I can pull here, I can't really push, and it's a lot of space for him to get out, pummel, and now he's the one who can get inside control. All right, so I want to have inside control, and I want to be able to push with my forearm, pull with my hand, and I can also lift with my elbow, okay? So if I'm going to get double inside control, I've got it on both sides, okay? So now I have both sides inside control, I'm winning. Now if I'm loose with this one, Mike pummels, and he's got his inside control, this is a 50-50 position, okay? I want to make sure that I have doubles, and I can choose which way to go, okay? Similar when we have an overhook and an underhook. Whatever side has the underhook, that foot is forward. So Mike, you're gonna bring that foot forward, okay? So right now, this is a 50-50 position. Neither of us is winning. I wanna go for double underhooks, double inside control. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this hand that has the overhook. I'm gonna make a blade connected to my chest, right? And I'm gonna try to slide this in and get this underhook so I have double underhooks. Now, he's not gonna let me do that. So what I have to do is I have to bump him as I go. He's probably gonna be doing the same thing. I bump and I switch my feet. Right, so we call this pummeling. Now I have this one. With the blade, I'm gonna bump, come under. Look how we're moving our feet while we do this. Okay? Thanks, Mike. Okay. All right, so one of the next drills we're gonna do, that's because it's part of the tech, is this butterfly sit-up. So when I say butterfly, I have my hooks here, my shins on Mike's legs. Okay, so I have points of control here. I can push my shins or pull with my feet. Okay? I also have my double underhooks. Okay, so in this butterfly position, Mike is almost always gonna be putting me on my back, right? So he's gonna be putting me on my back, right? And so if I'm in this situation here, I have very little offense because my heels are close to my butt. It's gonna be very hard for me to sit up here, okay? So what I have to do is I want my forehead in Mike's sternum, okay? I'm going to extend my heels here, extend out, and then sit up like this. And now I have much more control. All right, so the drill is going to be, Mike's going to flatten me out. I lift him up, I kick him out, and I sit and I make a little progress. He's going to flatten me out again. Up, out, and that's the sit-up, and we're going to go red to red the length of the mat. Okay. And then one of the techniques for practice is when I say windshield wiper, I want to make sure everybody understands what I mean. So we start off hands and knees like this, and just like the windshield wipers in your car, just like this. All right, so when we say windshield wiper our legs, we're doing this. All right, now another key concept is a lot of times when we're grappling, we have to go from on our back to flipping over to on our sternums. And you know, if you're athletic and you come from different backgrounds, a lot of times you can get away with this kind of kick over, and it will work. It will work especially when you are bigger, stronger, and the person you're going against doesn't know much. Now, if you're going against an experienced grappler, they're going to wait till the instant this foot leaves the mat, and they're going to flatten you back out and advance their position. So we want to make sure we're turning over properly. We're doing the bridge and turn. So just like when we're bridging up. We're putting all our weight on one foot, the opposite shoulder. The free foot comes behind. And come out like this plank position like this. As we start out, we have a lot of space here. As we get better and better, this space can get tighter to bridge and turn. Thanks. All right, guys, so we're gonna be doing a lot of traditional side control, points of control, attacks, and escapes. Now, when we talk about side control, a true side control where you score your points, you're controlling your opponent's heads and hips, okay? Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure we have our stable base. So just like when we're sitting in guard, we have our nice triangle here. Now, full side control. I've created some space here because this is where a lot of his escapes start from. I have to make sure that I'm controlling that space. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my leg here, I'm taking up that space here, okay? My other leg is controlling his hip. I've got my shoulder here, shoulder of justice here. And I've isolated this arm, I'm not letting him get this, and then I'm pinching here. Okay, so this is a traditional side control. Okay, so a lot of the escapes we're going to be doing this week are from getting out of this position. Okay, so now Mike's going to have me in that position. Here,
Go.
All right, so Mike's going to have me in that side control position. Okay, so he's in a dominant position right here. He's scored points, and it's on me to get out. Okay, so if I just sit here and I don't work, he's winning. It's on me to get the fuck out of this. So the first thing I got to do, I got to address this shoulder, right? Because my chin is pointing this way, it's very hard for me to turn my hips into him, okay? So I have to make sure that I get this shoulder off so I can turn my face in. So the first thing I'm going to do, this hand, I need to get it and swim it underneath and establish this post here. What I don't do, I don't reach around like this because I'm handing him all the attacks that we're going to go over later. So I need to make sure that I'm not flashing this out here because that would be making it easy for him. So I have to circle this in and establish frames on this shoulder here. Now, a lot of people think that they can just pull here, and maybe you can, maybe you're strong enough, but somebody who's really, really fighting, this is not going to be strong enough. So what I have to do is I have to bridge into him, and as he's going away, I'm creating a little bit of space just to turn my chin in. And once I have that, now I'm in business, okay? Now I'm able to turn my hips and face into him. This kickstand here is very, very important in all of these because if I am not having this contact, all he has to do is push me a little this way. I start all over again, okay? So as I bridge and I get my chin in, I'm making sure I'm reinforcing all that progress here. And he's probably gonna reinvade it and control my hips again with his knee, but I still have my hips turned in because I have this kickstand. The next thing I need to do is bring this arm into the fight, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get this across his waist like this. What I don't want to do, I don't want to put my palm on his hip like this because all he has to do is, and he breaks my wrist, okay? So I get my forearm here, and I'm trying to get my elbow across his wrist. So Marcus, if you come see where my elbow is here, like this, okay? All right, now the next thing I'm going to do, guys, this is where I get so particular about us shrimping the right way. I have to make sure that I'm reclaiming this space in his hips. So I'm going to connect my elbow to my hip. I'm going to drag my leg along until I can feel my elbow, and then I'm reinserting. Now I'm back in the fight. Now if I can get my shin all the way across his hips, that's great, but it's not really likely. Notice I still had this kickstand the whole time, okay? Once I have here and I got a little bit of pressure, I can go heel to heel. I can press away a little bit, just enough, but I can now weave this leg in here. Now I'm back in the fight, okay? So now I'm going to establish this underhook here. I'm going to be supporting my weight here. I'm going to be butt scooting my hip to my elbow. Just square back up. I've got the overhook. Mike is probably going to be smashing me down at this point. And just like we did our warm-up drill, I'm lifting up, I'm sitting out, and I'm coming to this butterfly. Okay? So, one more time. Mike's got me in full side control. First thing I have to do is address this shoulder. Okay, I weave this in, frame on the shoulder, legs out to the side, I buck, turn my chin in. I get my arm into the mix across his hip, okay? I connect my elbow to my hip, I drag my leg along, I insert, heel to heel, press, enough space to weave in, I butt scoot, square up, overhook, underhook, he flattens me out, I lift him up, and I'm here in butterfly guard. All right, that's number one. All right, so the next one, okay? Next one starts the same. I still have to address this, okay? Now, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to circle this in and establish this, okay? And I peel it off, I buck, I peel off, I get my chin in, okay? I go to do this. Now, I'm going to try to get my knee in, and for whatever reason, it's not working. He's too good, and I can't get this knee in, so I gotta move on to something else, okay? So I'm going to buck, I'm gonna swim this arm through here, and I'm gonna try to get deep. Notice how as I do this, I come up to the shoulder. I wanna get as deep as I can. Now my arms are long enough that I can reach around and grab the lat. If it's gi, I have material to grab onto, but the important bit is I'm up on my shoulder here, okay? Now I'm gonna do my bridge and turn like we did in the warm-ups, where I put all my weight here and on the shoulder, I bridge and turn. I build up to my knees. I trap his knee here. I'm gonna get up off my knees onto my toes, and I'm gonna run him in this direction. And I establish my own side control. All right, so one more time. Same position, okay? I weave this in, create some space, I drag this down. I can't get my knee in, I gotta move on to something else, so I buck up and I go deep underhook here, okay? I'm supporting my weight here, I'm up on my shoulder, I do my bridge and turn. I come up to my knees, I block, I run, and I establish my own side control. All right, guys, so the last escape we're doing today starts off the same way, okay? I have to address the shoulder of justice. I swim this in, I establish my post, I bridge and turn, chin in, okay? I get my arm into the mix, all right? I go, I try to get my knee in, I can't get my knee in. I try to bump to pummel this one in, I can't pummel this one in, okay? Because he's fighting too hard and I can't get this in. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna pummel this one to this far hip, okay? Now, just like in the last one, when we bridge and turn, we pre-positioned our feet this way. For this one, we're gonna pre-position our feet this way. And instead of bridging and turning this way, I'm gonna bridge and turn this way. Now, it's very important, as I get this, I have to do a couple things all at the same time. I have to make sure that I'm supporting some of my weight with this grip here, okay? I have to make sure that as I go to initiate my bridge and turn, I'm bumping him 45 degrees this way. So what I do is I support my weight, I bump him 45 degrees this way, and I bridge and turn all at the same time to come out here. All right, thanks. All right, guys, so that was all the defense for the week. Now we're gonna move on to the offense. So this is when I'm in top side control, this is dominant position for me, which means I have a whole lot of attacks, and he really doesn't have too many. He's got mostly defensive options. All right, so we're in this regular side control. All right, and I've scored my points. I've waited my 3 seconds to the referee called points, and now I'm gonna move to attack, okay? Now, just like we talked about, his first option is to try to get this around and address that shoulder justice. So I'm gonna make it impossible for him to do that by answering the phone. I'm putting my hand on my ear, I'm pinching, now he's never gonna swim that in. It's never gonna work, okay? So now I have to start isolating his other arm. This hand comes underneath, I find his tricep, and I switch my hips like this. Now what I wanna do is I wanna put some sort of wedge between his arm and his torso, okay? Now if I am small enough, I can get this T-Rex grip. I'm a little bit longer, so I almost always have to just make a fist and put it to the mat here, okay? What I need to prevent him doing is closing that space off. So all I'm doing is putting something here, then I'm getting up on my toes, I'm going hip to hip, and I'm running until there's some space there. I'm taking this top leg, I'm pinning here. I have my shin on his bicep. Now a lot of people will get this down low like this, which is okay, but it gives him chances to get out, okay? So I wanna make sure I have it up by his bicep. All right, so from here, I'm in a really good position to do a lot of attacks. So the first one, all I'm doing is posting here. I'm getting really tight on his arm here, and I'm putting my elbow into his sternum, putting my knee into his sternum, okay? From here, I'm searching with my cutting bone for where his tricep meets his elbow. I'm sliding up until my head finds his wrist here, and I want to get his thumb pinched in between my neck and my shoulder. And I'm gonna do this straight razor lock where I'm taking all the slack out here. I'm gonna finish by driving my hips forward and scooping here, okay? So a lot of times, if you're here with the flat edge blade here, it's not gonna work. I need to make sure that I have my cutting bone in the right place. I'm taking up the space here, and I'm finishing with my hips, okay? Now, a lot of times what happens is he turns and he fights, and I can't quite get the angle on the arm, okay? So what I'm gonna do, I tried this one first, it's not working. I'm gonna make sure I maintain control. This hand slides up, I find the wrist, head, wrist, and I come back down, okay? I wanna make sure I have 2 on 1. So I wanna make sure I always have my wrist and my head on top as this one goes to search underneath and I grab my own wrist, okay? Now I'm taking my head off so you guys can see, but I want as much weight on this as I can, okay? And I wanna make sure that I'm being careful. I'm not letting my sternum go too far past his sternum. Now what I wanna do is I wanna take this elbow, I wanna bend his arm and take it as close to his hip as I can. So I do that. Once I feel like that's as close as I can get it, I wanna make sure that this elbow is in his ear here. Take it a little bit more. Now I'm gonna rev this like it's a motorcycle. I'm gonna keep his hand to the mat, I'm gonna lift my elbow, and they tap, okay? Now, usually what happens is, as I'm fighting to get this, they straighten their arm because they know this is coming. All right, totally fine, not the end of the world. What I need to do is, as he straightens, I need to get my palm and find where that thumb is, okay? I'm gonna get my cutting bone, and I'm gonna find where my wrist is, just under that same spot on the tricep. And for right now, I'm just gonna position my hands so I know where they're at. When I'm ready to go, what I do is I rotate so my cutting bone is in here. I'm putting it into this nice little pocket, all right? And then I'm going to turn this down as I lift this up, okay? So as he goes to straighten out, I find this cup here, right? I find my wrist here. I don't put my fist in yet. A lot of times people do this rear naked choke grip, they're like, coach, this sucks, because you got the flat of the blade in. I rotate, I make this fist here, okay? Now, I pin that down, I lift this up, and they're gonna go, okay? Now, they're probably gonna fight by continuing to rotate down, okay? And they're probably gonna grab their pant, their belt, whatever. It's gonna be hard for me to finish in this position, all right? So what I do is I re-answer the phone, and then I'm gonna windshield wiper my legs. So Marcus, if you come over here. So I still have control of this arm. I'm going to windshield wiper my legs like so. And come out wide like this. Now I have to pull him up to create some space between his shoulder and the mat here. So what I do is I pull him up. I want to fill this space with my foot here, like so. So now it's going to be very hard for him to flatten back out because I'm pinching my knees. Now what I do is I lift up just enough, and he's fighting this, he's grabbing his leg, his belt, whatever. I need to make sure I keep control of this arm. I feed this one underneath, and I touch my own shoulder here. Once I'm pinching tight here, this one slides down and finds his wrist, and I find my own wrist. Now, a lot of people will start yanking up here, okay? And that's okay. But what I want to do is I want to keep my sternum connected to his arm because I'm letting my weight do the work. And I'm going to press down and away to break his grip. And I'm letting gravity do all that. Once that happens, I then come straight up. Straighter I get, and then I just rotate and turn. Okay, so instead of being one of these guys that's sitting here just yanking forever, I let gravity do the work. Once that grip is broken, then I come up and then I rotate. Okay, now we have one last thing from here, right? If he extends his arm here or whatever, okay, it's gonna be hard for me to get this Kimura. I can sit to the arm bar. So again, I switch here, I post here. I need to make sure I maintain control of this arm. So I switch here, I post here. I put my weight here on my hand. I keep this foot in connection with his shoulder blade here, okay? Now, what I wanna make sure is I don't let him get this elbow to the mat. So I like to switch this again and come back to this grip, okay? Because now I have control. I wanna make sure my heel or to my butt, my knees are pinched. Now, a lot of people will sit all the way back here and be trying to finish the armbar like this. And this is okay, but it's way better if I have heels to butt, knees pinched. I maintain this connection to my sternum. So as I sit back, my weight is gonna do the work right there. See how I have all this space left? Whereas if I come here, maybe I'll get it, maybe I won't. Here, it's much better. Thanks, guys.